Well, good afternoon. Here we are again in Minnesota, 2:45 in the afternoon, and it's warmed up. You can see outside the sun is shining, and it's already 3 degrees. Ridiculous. Anyway, plenty cold. I'm going to show you how I get started on this thing. So I have two different light boxes here because this thing, we're by the way, we're building that. And that's a Tiffany original out of a book called The Lamps of Tiffany. And there are about 14 of these that are still known to exist. They were done in different color schemes. This one, of course, is heavily blue, not a lot going on other than just being real intensely blue. And mine's going to be a little bit different than that. I've got some pictures here that I've printed off that I'm working with, but I'm trying to more or less go this direction rather than that direction. But I certainly have artistic license to do about what I want to do with it. So I'll show you here how I go about trying to figure out what piece of glass goes where. I spent most of the morning just looking this thing over and studying it. And I've decided to start up in this upper part. The crown, the top part of this lamp, is on order, and I'm still about 2 months out before I get the crown. I've got the branches ordered, and they're cast as well. This is cast brass. And then, of course, the base is ordered. That's 2 months out. So the crown and the base I ordered together. And then the branches I ordered separately because the people that make the base and the crown did not make the branches, and I had to get the branches someplace else. So anyway, I started and looked this thing over, and then I've looked this over, and then there's a larger picture of more or less where I'm headed, and these are compliments of Gail Obler is a very skilled stained glass lamp builder, and she and Scott Riggs, another very skilled lamp builder, both went together and built this particular lamp, and I like the colors that they use, so I'm going to lean that direction rather than the photo of the one I have over here. And as I mentioned in the video, this is video number 2, by the way. This is the Mylar pattern that you pay for when you buy this setup. You get the pattern and you get one copy, whatever I did with that. Here it is. You get one copy. This is paper. And then this is what I'll actually cut these pieces out. And in fact, here's one I'm working on. I'll get to that in just a minute. So what I do right now, or what I've done, is I studied this particular spot on the original lamp. And that spot, let me get myself together here. You can get lost real easy here. That spot is right there. Whoop, let me turn this on. Right there. All right, so there's where I started. It's a leaf. And on this particular reproduction of that lamp, there is their leaf, and I'm in that spot. Okay, so I took this Mylar pattern and I repeated it 5 times because this design on this lamp repeats itself 5 times. So if you'll look, that branch that's coming down, you'll go right over to here and see it again. And so the design repeats itself, like I said, 5 times, which means that there's one pattern laid down, and there's the second, there's the third, the fourth, and the fifth. And those are all setting up on my light box so I can see what I'm doing. And I've cut this first piece already just to show you how this starts. And I've set it on my pattern right there. And I've elected to use this color here in the initial stages of this green up here before it transitions totally down into the yellow. And so I've got some green working, then I'll work on into the yellow, and I'll show you the yellow-green transition that I'm going to use coming from this green into some of this yellow. Same as they've done here. They were a little more yellow up here in the top, a little more green over this way. Certainly I can change the way I want to do it. And so here's some glass that I'm using right now. And in fact, let me get my little cup here. There's the one we started with. There's that piece. And it morphed into those 5 pieces that are setting on each one of the 5 patterns. And so when I get done with that, there's the all from from 1 to 100 will go in this little bowl here when I finish with them. So there's number 57. The numbers don't make any difference to me. Actually, they'll guide you here if you get lost or you need to come back and do this one. I would just go over here and see that it is number 57, and I dig in my little bowl here to get 57. Right now, we're working on this one, and that is 59. Like I say, the number doesn't matter unless I need to come back and try to find that piece that I've either broken or need another one or whatever. So that 59, when I get done with it, will go in here. So what happens next is I take this little Mylar piece of paper and I position it on the glass. Let me get where you can see it. I'll position it on the glass to where I want it to be. And what I'll do tomorrow, maybe the next day, is I have another camera. I'll set a camera up above, and I'll show you how I actually cut these. There's no real mystery to that. As soon as I reach my... Here it is. I'm using but people are interested in this particular cutter. For many years, let me get another one here. For about 45 years, somewhere in there, still looking for another one. I'm not finding the one I'm actually looking for. Here it is. There you go. Okay. Two of these are the same. This one is different. Anyway, for about 44 years, I use these Fletcher cutters. They're great cutters. Nothing wrong with them at all. And then I don't know, I experimented about 3 or 4 years ago with a cutter from Germany. And you have to hold it different than I held these different. I held these differently. I held them like this. And this cutter is a little bit too wide for me to get in my hands comfortably like that. So I do all my cutting on the back side of it. There are 100 people will hold a glass cutter 100 different ways. But anyway, basically what I'm doing is, I'll back this camera out so you can see this. What I would do here is I'll make one cut right here, score. I'll go right up there, turn, and come right up the back side of all 4 of those, or 3 of those pieces there. Take that whole section out, then I'll just start cutting them off one at a time. When I get them shaped with the glass cutter as close as I can get, and I need to be just inside that line, then I'll come over to this grinder and grind it to fit. And what I'll do is I'll take this pattern paper here, right there, and I'll lay it, because I need to be really exact here. I'll lay it on the glass as I grind each piece off. I'll come back and see how close I am to the pattern. I've been cutting glass for a long time, so I'm going to be real close. And basically the grinder is just going to clean up the edge of the glass. If you've not been doing, or not been cutting glass for a long time, or for a considerable length of time, then you'll probably be using the grinder a lot more. If you've not been cutting glass for a long time, I would question your judgment into jumping something like this. I think when most people, I don't know how many people that'll actually stay with me throughout this whole project, but by the time we get done with this, you'll have a different appreciation for the skill that it takes to do one of these, and for the skill it took the people from 1895 on into 1906. This lamp was built in 1906, the original. The skill they had and applied to these. I don't think, though, I will give myself a little defense here. I don't think that any one person built the entire lamp. I think there was a crew of numerous people that cut and did all the other parts of this. This has got a hill to climb for one person. But I love what I'm doing, so that's not a problem. And so I have all the light tables set up, and this is Mylar, and I reproduced these by hand, and then I've blacked out everything so I can, get a good look at the color of the glass. And that's really important because I want to pick this glass out to work with each other. So to my best of my mathematical calculations here, there are only 1,940 pieces left to cut, because there's the first 5 right there. And then over here, I've set up another light table, And here's where I'm trying to figure out. Let me grab another piece of this glass here. Here's where I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm doing over here in respect to the work itself and its relationship with all these pieces. Another light table over there so I can get right down to the actual shape that I want the piece to be. Here's where the glass, I've got a lot of glass stacked up right here, a lot more over here. And here's where I'm trying to work along and figure out what do I want to go where. And we're going to, when we get into a little more yellow with the leaves, then we have, look at this, these are two different manufacturers of glass, but this yellow in the background of this glass works real well with this particular glass, and I can transition from this more yellow here, the leaves, and on into some green yellow to bring the leaves more alive. In other words, like a real tree, this ficus tree that sits here, there's some yellow leaves there, and then there's some green. So what would we would be doing here is transitioning in different areas across the top of that lamp and then on down into the lamp to work these colors where I've got a leaf that, if you would look, let me get my hand to go here. For instance, right here, I can look through this camera and see this is showing up a little bit different color on the camera than I'm actually looking at, but there's a little more yellow here. But if I wanted a leaf to be partially green, partially yellow, then I can cut it out of this section of the sheet. And as we move on further into the sheet, I can get a little more drastic if necessary and get more yellow. There's a little bit of green, all yellow. So this is a handmade sheet of glass, and I think I saw the year 1986. This is bullseye glass from 1986, so got a lot of older glass here. Anyway, and these are just some colors up here that I laid out. I'm not saying I'm going to use them. I don't really know. There's a whole bunch more there. There's a bunch of background colors here, things I might use. There you go. That could certainly end up in a couple of places behind some of the floral work and behind maybe some of the leaves. Just depends on how it goes. So anyway, I wanted you to see the light table set up, and then I make sure I stay on track here. Here's another picture of what I'm trying to do here, more or less, the close-up. And so I figure out where I am in this particular piece, and in fact, there we are again. And on top of that leaf that we have right here, there are these three pieces of glass here. And Scott Riggs and Gail worked more or less a kind of a, if you can see it, it's right up in there, a little bit of a soft lavender bluish glass into that spot. So I'll make a decision based on what I have. Look at this. I don't know whether you can, how well you can see this. Look here, here you go. So I've got all kinds of options here. And it's pretty exciting. The hardest part of this thing for me was actually getting started today, trying to get everything set up the way I wanted it to set up. And there's no shortcut to getting this thing done in a hurry. You never would. Hurry and a project like this are two words that are long way apart for sure. This is all about just cutting these pieces one at a time, making sure they look the way you want them to look, and go to the next one. And so I'm studying the original and where the piece is. We're back to, here we are. Let me show you again. We're right there. And then those three spots right there are right there on the pattern. So I'm right here, and I've cut this leaf right here. I'll probably go ahead after I get these cut out. I'll probably move to this one, and then maybe go back across over on this other side. On the other side here, you can see what they've done. There's one, I hope you can see this. I'm getting a little shine off of the light above us. There's a leaf there, and then a little bit of the blue background, some flower background, then back to a leaf and another leaf and another leaf and another leaf. And so that's where we are, right in this area right here. So that's all I'm doing, and just a little at a time. And boy, I'm telling you, you cannot believe how a day will go by when you get tied down into this. And I had a client in here this afternoon to pick up a piece. I do like corporate gift stuff, take logos for companies, and there's an executive with a company, and they've got some wing ding of some kind coming up, and so they want to give him a special gift. So I do one-of-a-kind pieces like that. Anyway, he picked this up, and we're talking about age and this kind of stuff, and I think this is just really good for your health to be older and be tied into something like this. And I don't know, I'm certainly not medically that bright, but I would think that having to think like this and to do all of this real intricate work keeps your mind real sharp, because boy, you can't let up on any of this. You have to be thinking ahead of this thing all the time. I did want to ease over here. I'm sure you saw there's a piece of glass right here, this real beautiful celery colored glass. I like that glass, but I don't know, I'm not sure it's going to work in here anywhere. But 1994 Ouroboros. Anyway, that's about all I have for today. I'm happy I've finally got these tables all wired up and set up, and of course we're on the top side here. This is the top of the lamp, and this is the way I add the glass work as we go right up here. So I've got it all in front of me. So I'm got my area here to cut the patterns out, over here to study, and here to mark where I am and kind of keep my colors right. Down here, I put a little green here. And then right behind me would be the cutting area, then over here to grind. So I'm pretty well set up for where I'm just moving in this one little circle here. So thank you so much for your attention, and I'll show you how that at least I build, and everybody's going to build one of these different. If you notice, there are a few people that come on to my Facebook page and say, well, I do it this way and I do it that way. That's fine. That's no problem. I listen to their stuff, some of their stuff. I've taken some of their advice. I've been doing this a long time, but you can always learn. Somebody's thought of a better way to do something. So, and I wanted to mention, oh yeah, one other thing about these little bowls. So the next bowl will go when I hit the 200s, 300s, 400s, and so forth. So that way I can go back to the bowl and find a pattern piece that I need. And I can also make another pattern piece. I've got extra Mylar off of this rather than go hunt for it. But anyway, I keep all the pattern pieces. That'll go right there. And in fact, we're going to go cut that one just as soon as I get done. Well, let's see. I'm trying to look down at this phone and see if there's anybody asking any questions that I need to answer. Rachel. Oh, yeah, Rachel Taylor. Man. Go to, if you take my advice, if you want to see something fantastic, go to Rachel C. Taylor's Facebook page and look at what, she lives in Wales, if I get this right. I'm pretty sure that's right. And look at what she does with stained glass or glass and birds. Anyway, and so I could certainly learn from her. As far as lamps go, people can watch what I'm doing here and pick up a little bit of advice on how to get one of these lamps done. Anyway, I appreciate the interest in these pieces, this work, and we'll probably be back in a few days when there's numerous pieces of glass up here and see how they look in relationship to each other. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Bye now.